Hey guys, so sometimes on this channel we're gonna have some interviews with some pretty cool people that I've run into along the way. For the first one, we have Mr. Poe from Podcast from Beneath. I didn't even know we were friends on Facebook, and one day I got a message from him, and he was asking about the first and only feature-length film that I've ever made, called SCUM. He asked if he could get a copy, and I don't have any more copies, but it should be up on YouTube here in a little while, actually. So we just got to talking. He told me about his podcast. I told him about all the books that I've been writing, and I don't know. We just kind of hit it off. For my day job, I am the editor of a newspaper, so I decided to interview him for the newspaper and record the entire hour-long conversation that we had. Yeah. Here it is, interview with Mr. Poe. Make sure you check out all the links in the description, and hope you enjoy.
Very happy to be talking with you. It's so funny because my wife is a home health nurse, and she had a patient, and they started talking about B movies, and she's like, "Oh, my husband loves independent film B movies," and she goes, "Has he heard of SCUM?" And she goes, "Probably. I don't know." She told me about it, and I was like, "I've never heard of this movie, and I got to see it now. If I never heard of it, I got to see it."
Yeah.
And that's what led me to finding you, which is just awesome. I mean, I still want to see this movie because I'm all about it. You know, I love independent stuff. So
Yeah. Well, it's like I was living in San Antonio, and I had just moved back to Beeville. And whenever I lived in San Antonio, I would help a lot of other independent filmmakers up there kind of shoot their documentaries and stuff. I would go, and I was just friends with all the filmmakers there. So sometimes we would go shoot short films, and we were able to screen them at these things that they call film slams. We'd go to we'd go to the basement of this church, and Shinerbach was there, a sponsor. So like we would buy Shinerbach beers for like $1 in the basement of this church, so we could go buy beers, sit there, and watch everybody's movies.
Heck
And
yeah.
then afterwards, we'd all just sit around and talk about like filmmaking and how'd you do that and how'd you do this, and it was really, really cool. So then whenever I moved back down to Beeville, for those of y'all that don't know, it's a really, really small town.
Yeah.
I just started looking around, and I was like, there's a lot of cool stuff here. We don't have to get permits. I'm sure if I hold auditions, I'll get a bunch of locals, and we'll do it really, really cheap, like really, really cheap. So the whole budget of the feature length film was $4,000, and
Wow.
we shot it over 2.5 years, and we still managed to come in under budget at 3,600.
Wow. 3,600.
Just to show you how cheap it actually is. But it was cool. It was cool because I just put the word out there that I was doing this, and we got tons and tons of community support. We got to shut down 2 blocks of downtown Beeville to shoot the scene in. And whenever, I think we had like 4 hours to do it. So we showed up, and the city crew came and barricaded it all off for us. And we had a couple of hundred people show up just to watch it. And we had we had a crane shot that we used a local electric company's vehicle. They let me get in the basket, and they just I was able to control it and film everything, and we had all these people, and it was very, very cool.
That's great.
Yeah, it just
awesome, man.
It just turned 10 years old last March. Yeah.
Wow.
10 years old. Yeah. So.
Man, yeah, that's amazing. I like hearing stories like that. That's cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was my first film. So, my first feature film. So I knew it wasn't going to be like Godfather or Citizen Kane or anything. So that's why, we kind of embraced our B movie heritage, And since the movie was shot in Bville, people were like, "Oh, of course it's a B movie." It's like, yeah, man.
Well, you know, sometimes those are the best type of movies. I mean, just looking at, you know, because I've been doing the podcast for 2 years now, and just meeting these different people that make these films, and just, you know, it's like a little community, and you get people that actually care about what's going on. And, you know, yeah, there's mistakes, but man, I mean, some of the independent stuff I've seen, I'm like, wow, that was a good job. You know,
Yeah.
you come out with something great, and, you know, original. It's not a remake. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
this was in my head and here it is. So.
I think that was like one of the coolest things was writing the script, coming up with the idea and writing the script, and then whenever we would go to shoot it, it's like, wow, these are the people that were in my head that were on this piece of paper, and now here they are, you know, like they're saying what, you know, like they're saying these words that I wrote, and they're doing such a good job, you know, and it was just really, really cool. Like I made lifelong friends with the people there.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's freaking awesome, man.
Okay, so the podcast.
Yes.
Started doing it 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing the podcast for about 2 years. I started out with a good friend of mine, and his personal life kind of got in the way of things, and we had to stop doing it. Well, I made friends with the guys that I'm with now, a podcast from Beneath. They're in West Virginia. And I would do a couple episodes with them, and they're like, dude, you know, we want you on the show. So come on the show. And, you know, it's like you didn't skip a beat. So I came in, and yeah, I made friends with those guys. And we've talked to a lot of cool people, independent filmmakers, some people that, you know, were actors in certain films in the 80s, like Deborah Voorhees. She was in, you know, Friday the 13th. I think it was part 7. I might be messing this up. But anyway, she got killed in it. But she's starting her own thing. You know, 13 Fanboy is a film that she's coming out with. So we've talked to her. We talked to David Howard Thornton. He's the Terrifier clown. We talked to him. Really cool dude. He's up in New York. Made real good friends with another director in New York. He did an independent feature called Demon Resurrection. And and he is the coolest dude ever. I mean, he's just really cool. William Hopkins is his name, and I think his movie's on it is on Prime. But yeah, I mean, just meeting all these different people is just awesome. And then of course, you know, I'm Texas boy, so I found Billy Pawn, and he's a director of Circus of the Dead. I met him at the Cult Classic convention a year ago, before all this. And yeah, he's really cool. He's out of Midland. And then another guy I met, William Instone's making a movie around the Austin area, and it's called Butcher's Bluff. I mean, it's a big independent thing, and they're very welcome. Everybody, that's the one thing. Everybody's real cool with you. They want to help each other, you know. It's just real cool to meet all these people and talk to them, you know.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people that are in like the horror film genre, as well as filmmakers and stuff, like we all kind of embrace it, you know, because, you know, we embrace each other, you know, because it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna do this crazy thing, like awesome, like, let me know if you need help. And
that's the best thing, dude. The crazy stuff is the best, you know.
What got you into like horror in the first place?
You know, I've always been a fan of the genre. You know, I'm thinking back to my days in, you know, like, I want to say 6th, 7th grade, going to Hollywood Video, walking the aisles, getting a VHS tape because you're staying at a buddy's house, and renting the weirdest looking cover you could find, you know, and that always stuck with me, you know, that genre. I love the horror genre, but I also, you know, exploitation genre too. I mean, just the weirdest stuff is usually my go-to. It's like, I have to see this, because there was no restraint. Like they came out that, hey, I want to do this, and I'm gonna, just show it, and we'll go from there. And prime example, Cannibal Holocaust. They got in trouble because they thought they really killed people, and they didn't, because where was it? The Philippines. They didn't have any restrictions. In the 70s, everybody looks back and you're like, how come there's so many women in prison films in the jungle? Because Philippines didn't care. They're like, blow that shit up. Okay. Sorry, my language. Blow that stuff up. I don't care. Where's the money? So that's why all those movies, you have all those awesome, crazy movies from back then. That's why they were always in the jungle, because they can get away with it.
Yeah, I was speaking of that movie, I was a little let down by Eli Roth's Green Inferno. I was like, are you trying to remake it, or
yeah,
you have that movie?
It definitely came off that way. I saw the preview for it, and I was like, I got to see this. Eli Roth gets a lot of hate. I kind of like his style, and Green Inferno, I feel the same way you did. I'm like, this is just a shot for shot, just a little bit more gory.
Yeah.
But
it's like it didn't have the effect of Cannibal Holocaust, because I remember watching it.
No.
I guess I rented it from probably Hollywood Video, but the Hollywood Video, no, maybe not even then. I don't know, because you remember Hollywood Video used to be inside of HEB.
Yep.
On the side. So like maybe that's where I got it. I don't really know, but I remember the first time watching it and just thinking the whole time I'm watching a documentary, and I'm like, oh man, this is bad,
They did such a fantastic job.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you can trick people and have the law come in and being involved in thinking that you really killed people, you did your job, man. Oh. I mean, but they did get in trouble. I guess because they really did kill animals. That pig really did get killed. That turtle.
The turtle, yeah. The
animals didn't survive.
Yeah.
So
whenever I was watching that, I was just like, man, they did a really great job on that turtle. Like, man, that looks real. And then years later,
shit, it was real.
Did you ever hear about the Milo and Otis thing? The Milo and Otis movie?
Yes.
Okay,
where all animals sound like Dudley Moore? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'll go any further into that, but yeah, it was just like, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It was bad.
Yeah. So anybody out there that doesn't know, either Google it or don't.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like me too. It's like whenever I grew up, my parents let us watch Freddy Krueger. They let us watch Friday the 13th, Halloween. They let us watch all that stuff, and it's like we were always renting them. So I mean, I must have seen my first horror movie when I was like 7 or 8,
Wow.
And then I read my first Stephen King book whenever I was 9, I think. That was Night Shift. So that was the first one I read, and it's just like watching the horror movies and then reading the horror novels and all this stuff. It kind of just came together for me, and it's like, dude, I want to be able to do this, and so yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to see like the magic on screen or the magic in books, and even if it's really gory, horrible stuff, it's like it's funny. There's just some of us that like it kind of like it was our childhood, and
yeah, it's kind of like, and see, I had a different experience. My parents were not movie people. They did not like it, and let's just say my mom was very strict on certain things. Like, I mean, I couldn't even play Mortal Kombat on Genesis. I mean, it's laughable now to see how far that game has come. But at my time, you had to put in a special code. Yeah, I know you're with me, but someone else watching might not be.
Yeah.
There's a special code you put in so you can have blood. But yeah, she was all concerned about that. And then as I got older, I was able to go rent that stuff, but I I had a friend that his mom was like that. She didn't care. Whatever. Y'all watch Alien, Aliens and Alien 3. And then it just went from there. And of course the Friday the 13th franchise and Nightmare on Elm Street and all the good stuff. So that's where my exposure came from. And then, it just, I've always been a horror fan. I like it. It just talks to me. And of course, like I said, the B movie genre, I just love it. I love everything about it.
Yeah, you're one of those special guys that embraces the entire genre, and that's something I like about you. It's like you're always out there promoting other people's stuff, and like why is that? Like
why? I guess I wish I had a great answer for that. The only thing I can think of is I always like to help people. And, there's so many projects out there. There's so much stuff that people are creating, and they're creating some cool stuff. And, there's just so many people out there that it's all about me, and it's all about the gram, and it's all about my YouTube views. And, if, who cares? It helps someone else. It brings me a lot more, I guess, happiness to see someone else get lifted up. Hey, that guy, I knew when he wasn't doing nothing, like his channel didn't have that much, but I'm proud of him. He did, or he or she or whoever, they did great. And I like lifting people up. And also I'm a fan before anything. Like if you make something like Billy Pond's movie, Circus of the Dead, my wife thinks I'm disturbed. She's like, why do you like that movie? I'm like, I like the attention to detail. The story's crazy. You got killer clowns riding around Midland, Texas, causing chaos. How do you not like that? And those types of movies, they always like, the weirder the better for me, man. I enjoy it. It gives me I guess like anybody else, it gives you kind of an escape from different things, and it gives you enjoyment. And sometimes you need that, especially in the times we're in now. Some people don't have an escape, and they just, they kind of go crazy.
So like, I know that horror, the horror genre has like a really weird kind of I don't know what you call it, kind of like a stigma, so like do people like look at you or try and or do they judge you differently as soon as they meet you for the first time?
No, not I've been blessed. People just I get to know people, and once they get to know me and what I'm about, like I don't make it my, they're like, oh, okay, he enjoys horror movies. And I've always told people when I met them, oh man, I love this horror movie. That's my favorite genre, and then some people like other, and then sometimes like one of my best friends here in George West, he didn't like it at all. And then I come around, and then he's like, oh, around Halloween, that's when everybody comes to you. They're like, hey man, you like horror movies? What should I watch? I'm like, okay, well, have you seen, for instance, House? And they're like, I've never seen House. And I showed that to my best friend. He loves that movie. He said, that was a great movie. And it is. I mean, sometimes people just come to you. Yeah. And my wife, I mean, she's all, she likes all genres of movies, but she likes horror movies too,
Does she sit down and watch them with you?
Oh yeah. Ever since the podcast, we'll come up with like, okay, dude, we're gonna watch this, and then we're gonna talk about it. And it's in Cannibal Holocaust being an example. We did an episode on that, and she sat down watching. She goes, "Man, I was disturbed. When was this made?" And I told her, she's like, "Oh my god." I'm like, "Yeah," and she's seen most of the horror she's seen is because of me sitting there and watching it, and that's how she gets to see it.
Yeah. We see, and it's like for me, being a filmmaker, like I watch all genres of movies. My wife doesn't. My wife does. Like I have a subscription to Shudder, and
oh yeah.
And if I want to watch something, it's like the kids have to be in bed, and my wife has to be busy, and then I have to plug in the headphones and sit on my laptop and watch something on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have small kids too. I have a a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an 8-year-old. So
Oh,
it's
wow. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah, that's a little thing I have to keep to myself right now. My 8-year-old maybe sooner than later, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and my oldest son, he's going to be 18 in May. And when he was around his preteens, he would sit down with me. I'd pop in something, and he's like, "Oh, what are you watching?" And he'd sit there and watch it with me, and he liked it, And then my youngest son, he's 13 now, and he's all about sports, and he
Oh,
plays Fortnite. You know how it is. They're all about the Fortnite, and he's not really into movies. So and my oldest, he likes watching films, and I'll tell him, "Hey, dude, have you seen this film?" And he's like, "No," and he'll go and watch it, like Boondock Saints or something. I'm like, "Dude, you need to watch these films. Like, these are awesome
yeah,
movies from my time, like The Crow. Watch these movies, you'll like them." And he ends up liking them. So
yeah.
I try to educate him too. Not as much of a movie guy as me, but he still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, it's like my daughter, she'll watch like the Lego movie, or she'll watch like these cartoons and they reference stuff, and she's like, "Oh, Dad, like it's like she was watching Trolls, and then the other day we were in the car and we're listening to classic rock. And she's like, "Oh, Dad, that song's in Trolls." I was like, "Well, kind of, kind of," but it's like the same thing. It's like, she'll tell me about these references in these movies, and I'm like, "You have no idea. Like
Oh man.
that's from Dad's movie, and
Yeah.
um, going back to George West. George West is smaller than Beeville, correct?
Oh yeah. Yes, it is. I originally lived in Del Rio, Texas. I grew up down there, and that's a border town. Um, and I found a job up here in the oil field, and that's what brought me here. Like I said, I grew up there. That's home, And yeah, I've enjoyed this little community. They're real cool, and the boys, they're in their sports and stuff, and that I just like the little knit community. But I mean, I also like Beeville's like 15 minutes away from me, so I mean, we go up there and we'll go eat or something, so
Well,
it's
it's
not
like
bad.
um, that's what that was one of the first things I found so odd about you, is that you lived in George West and you were on a podcast.
Yeah.
You must be the only person in like a mile radius on a podcast that lives.
It might be, I might be, I don't know. Uh, I think that I encourage people to do podcasts. I really do, because you get to talk about what you want, and you're not censored in any way, and it's a release. If you can't gather, I love talking. I like talking to people. I always have. My wife makes fun of me because I'll make a friend somewhere. We'll be out in San Antonio, and I was sitting down having a drink, and then someone was talking to me, and she goes, "Oh, do you know that guy?" I said, "No, I just met him." So I take that as, I like talking to people. I'm not shy. I'll just come out and, hey, let's talk about something, or, I'm into sports too. I'm into all sorts of different things. So, I
Well,
try to be relevant.
well, explain to me a little bit how you got onto this podcast with these people from West Virginia.
Oh, well, I started listening to podcasts. I never listened to them before. I listened, when I started listening to them, I was like, man, I want to do one. And so I started listening, and I found this podcast. It's called A Podcast from Beneath. And so I was like, okay, let me listen to these. I was pretty much listening to, like, let me see what my competition is here. Let me see what other people are doing, And I started listening to them. I was like, okay, I like the layout of the show. That's a nice layout and everything. Okay. And I listened to all their episodes. At the time, it was 7. And I listened to all of them. And I threw Carrie a message, and I said, hey, man, I just listened to your podcast. I'm a fan of it now. And, I really enjoyed it. He sent me a message right back. He goes, I can't believe someone listened to all. I said, yeah, man, I'm starting my own with a friend of mine. He's like, okay, cool. And then me and him just joined forces. He'd come on our show. I'd go on his show. Then we started the podcast network, the 1313 Inc., and it's his idea, and we were a part of that. And like I said, things fell apart with my my other friend. I knew him for a long time, and then I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. Am I going to do my own thing? What? And then Carrie was like, hey, hey, come join us, man. We'd love to have you. So I said, all right. And I mean, shit, now it's like over 100 something episodes now. I mean, we try to do a weekly episode and talk about different things and, pick a movie and we kind of, what'd you think kind of thing. But we try to make it fun too. I think, I hope people are having fun listening to it.
Well, you know what? Whenever you reached out to me and you said that you were doing that you're doing this podcast, and I mean honestly, like I'm just like, oh great, okay, because it's like like I've been hit up by some local people that are doing podcasts,
Yeah.
and they're not very good, and then like whenever you said that you were doing one and then you gave me the name, I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And then it was good. And I was like, oh man, this is good. So it's like, I listen to it now and I'm just like,
oh man, I that is a great honor right there. I appreciate you saying, I mean, me and Carrie, we talk all the time. We're like, we sound like jackasses. What are we doing? We always question, what are you doing? And we try to, like I said, we try to make it fun. We try to do something a little different. I mean, I listen to other people's stuff and I mean, I give you an A for effort for trying anytime, man. And if you put something out there, keep going because it only makes you better. If you keep going, if you give up and say, well, my podcast, I have, 10 episodes out and I only have, 40 listens through 2 months, I'm done. Well, you're not gonna you're not gonna reach that status giving up. That's why I like to champion people. I'm like, hey man, excuse me, sorry. Hey man, keep going. I mean, you can only get better. You can't get worse. I mean, you'll figure your mistake, like we were talking about before this. You'll figure your mistakes out. That's all you can do. So, well, but I appreciate the kind word. I mean, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, dude, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and yeah, and so like you always keep track of the good ones, especially you being, like, well, I guess I can consider you local, even though
pretty much.
I'm from Beeville. I live in Corpus, and so you're like in the area, and here in Corpus we have a lot. Well, I guess not a lot. I think we have like 3 or 4 podcasts, 5.
Yeah.
But the way that you guys do it, it's like a lot of fun. It's like a lot of bullshitting and, like really, really laying it all out, how you guys feel. So that's awesome, It's not like stuffy, like, oh, well, well.
Oh, I know where you're going. Yeah.
It's like that's one of my favorite parts about it. It's like you're sitting in a room with a bunch of horror fans and y'all are all just talking.
I think that's what we were going for the whole time. That was the goal. We'll say we don't know something. Hey, who was the actor in, Friday the 13th Part 5 that did oh, fuck, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, some people that have it right in front of them and we like going off the cuff. And sometimes we have some funny freaking moments and just laugh. And the best compliment, other than the one you just gave us, a guy a couple of days ago, he said, I love the new episode. You guys are doing a great job. I felt like I was sitting around a campfire and you guys were drinking beer or something. I was like, hey, that's the best. That's the best compliment you could give me.
Yeah. It makes me really, really jealous that like I don't have that group of friends. Like I used to kind of back in the day, but not being a dad, of 3 children, it's kind of like that's where I get it from now. It's from like podcasts like yours, you know. It's like I get to sit
you.
around and hang out with friends again, talk about horror movies, and you know, and like it's funny too because I'll listen to you guys whenever I'm driving, and then you know like you guys will be like, oh, who's that actor? And I'm like, oh, that's so and so. It's so and so. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I know.
You're like, damn it. Oh yeah.
So it's like, so do people in your community, do they know that you're part of this thing?
Probably not. I mean, you know, my friends that, you know, people that know me know I have it. And, you know, I don't know a whole lot of people around here. I know some, but most of them, I don't think they would pay attention to this. And I'm fine with that. That's fine. You know, my youngest brother, he lives up in Georgetown, and he listens to it every once in a while. You know, it's so funny. I think about when this comedian said, you know, never try your material in front of the family.
Oh yeah.
Because they're not going to think it's funny, or they'll just look at you. They're not going to react like someone else would. And I think that's the same thing. Like they hear they hear me talk all the time. So they're like, I don't want to sit there and listen and talk for like an hour, you know, which I don't blame them, but you know. Yeah. And then my middle brother, he says he listens all the time. I mean, he listens at work, you know.
Very cool.
So, and and like I said, we made some friends with other people, and they say, oh man, we love the show. You know, we listen to y'all all the time, and they're excited when the new episode comes out. And we give them a shout out too. And they're like, hey, thanks for the shout out. You know, because they're doing something too, you know. One of them, he owns a website, and he writes about older B movies. And I met him through the B movie TV people when I joined that. When I joined the B movie TV people, that's where I met him, and he's a real cool guy.
Well, talk about that a little bit.
Oh, B movie TV. Well,
they show some pretty crazy stuff.
I know, man. Let's see. B movie TV. When I first moved up here, I had a Roku, the little Roku box, and you know, I was looking for obscure channels for the Roku because they had all the regular, and B movie TV showed up. I was like, all right, let me check it out. And I love the channel. I was like, man, it's 24/7, you know, and this is so cool. And then when I started my first podcast, I reached out to Ken, which he's the guy that created B movie TV, Ken Ace Brewer. And I said, hey man, love to have you on the show. That dude is super busy, but he made it happen. And he came on the show. That made my whole year. That just made my year. I was like, man, I get to talk to someone I look up to. I mean, I thought that was so cool that he come up with a channel, nothing but B movies, you know?
Yeah.
And then after that conversation, he hit me up on Facebook Messenger, and he's like, hey, I need a host for a sci-fi show. Would you be interested? I'm like, I never done any video, nothing ever. Okay, I guess I'll try. You know what? Let's go. Let's try it. I tried it out, and then my very first episode, he said, "Man, you had a good turnout on the views, and I'd like to invite you just to have that show." So I named the show Sci-Fi. Well, it came from my youngest brother. The idea for the name was Sci-Fi Sideshow, and it still is. And I just host a show. I'm like, hey, here's this movie. It has so-and-so in it and everything. Let's watch it together. And then there's a live feed on the B Movie TV fans group where you can comment through the whole thing. And of course, I'm there too, and I'm with everybody, and a lot of other hosts do it as well for their show. But yeah, I loved it, and I've been doing that for a while. I think it's been over a year now. So I've been on B Movie TV. So yeah.
Look at you, just old field worker from George West, you know? It's crazy.
Well, you know, I thought, you know, I got ideas, and I want them. I always had that. I don't know. I've always had that urge. Like, you know, growing up, I always thought it'd be cool to have a radio station and a radio, you know, show. I thought that was cool. And then during my high school years, the big thing was, TRL. And then what I look forward to was seeing, what was his name? Matt Pillman, the heavy set, bald white guy. And he knew everything about metal, like rock bands.
Yeah.
I waited up for his show, and I always thought that was cool. So I think that's where some of that appeal came to do something like this. Cause I'm like, I didn't think I could do it better, but I was like, you know what? I want to try this. I want to see what I can do with it. And that's what I did. And now I'm still doing it. So.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Growing up, I had I was fortunate enough to have a giant satellite dish in my back.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So like we had like hundreds and hundreds of channels beyond cable. It's like we would put in satellites and we would get nothing but like 60 channels from Japan, so it's like that's where I got to see all this anime, and like nobody even knew what I was talking about. I'd go to school and I'd be like, dude, I saw this anime and it was awesome. Like, what, a cartoon? I was like, no, there's blood, there's sex, there's violence. I'm like, in a cartoon? And I was like, yeah. And then they would show like crazy Japanese movies, and like I'd watch samurai movies and and then you'd put in another satellite and you'd find like I think that's how we saw Evil Dead for the first time. Me and my little brother, we were just going through, and it's like we would spend nights just going through each satellite and then just going through all 60 channels on that satellite just to see what was on there, and we'd get like the BBC, we'd get like all these, all these things that nobody had heard of whenever I was like, I guess I was like 8 years old, 9 years old or something like that, So it's like, yeah, like I got to see all this stuff. And then we would also get HBO for free. We had HBO, Showtime, Cinemax for free. And then they came out with the Sci-Fi Channel, and the Sci-Fi Channel showed a whole bunch of horror movies on there too. So that's whenever we saw Evil Dead 2, and we were like, this is kind of like that other movie we watched. It has the same guy. They're in the cabin again, but it's different, and so yeah, there's just all this, like, there's so many crazy movies out there that people have no idea. So it's like whenever I went to the B Movie channel, I was just kind of looking at the lineup, seeing what they were showing. I'm like, wow, I've seen that, but not knowing the titles, it's like, I'm like looking it up. I'm like, what is that one?
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it. Had no idea,
Well, and they have an update now to where you can see the title when you go to the channel and it pops up. You can, it's a new feature. I think it came 2 months ago, maybe a month ago. I'm not sure, but I started seeing it. I'm like, thank God. Cause even I would have to, I'm like, I have to look it up. Cause I was like, what movie is this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I want to see it from the beginning. And now of course, B Movie, it's just streaming. So you can't rewind it or nothing, but I think that's part of, I guess it's I guess a lure. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a word, but I think that's what makes it so unique, is that it feels, and there's just, old commercials on there. Yeah. There's newer commercials too, but just a lot of vintage stuff and a lot of cool older movies that you probably never would have thought you'd watch, and there's themed nights for every day of the week. So, like tonight, it's Wednesday, so it's sci-fi, and then tomorrow's action. And then Friday is when the hosted shows start. So then you get another real cool guy I met through B Movie TV, and he has a podcast and everything. His name's Doug Waugh, and he's done a couple of movies as well. But he's a real cool guy too, out in LA. So, and then of course Ken's making another movie, another Death Park, the Death Park series, the final chapter it's called, I think. So he's got that going on. So, he's very passionate about filmmaking and films, and he's just a real cool guy. And I think you dig talking to him as well. I mean, he's just a real cool dude.
Cool. So lay out the cast of the podcast.
Well, it's Carrie Vickers is the creator of it, And then Billy Ballard, he's been there since the beginning. And of course, I came in. And then before me, they used to have a guy. His name was, I can't think of his last name, but his name was Eric. I'm going to kick myself later because I'll remember it. But he's a real cool guy. And he has his own stuff going on. You know, he branched off into his own thing, so it left an open spot. So I just came right in there. But yeah, that's the cast of of our show. But yeah, Kerry, he did a lot of work, man. I mean, he came up with the name, he came up with, the layout. And of course, me and him feed off of each other now, and we come up with ideas, and I'll throw him something. He's like, oh yeah, that's a cool idea. So we'll try it out. So yeah.
It's funny that, like podcasts have been around for a long time. I had, right after the first year of shooting SCUM, I started my own podcast, and that was back in 2010, I guess, or 2011. And I couldn't get anybody to listen. Nobody even knew what a podcast was. Like we were online, and I guess I was using MySpace at the time. Like setting up the host, trying to get people to listen to. And we did. Well, I say we did it, but I did it for about I guess a little over a year. And we ended, we would do it. I would do it every week. And I think we ended with like 60 listeners, that was like, yeah. But yeah, like people, like me, I was just like, dude, I really don't have time anymore. And then it feels like nobody's listening, and like, who am I even doing this for? But then, I stopped. And then, like, it took about a month or two, and the people were like, hey, when's the new episode coming out? I think I had, like, 2 people email me, like, hey, when's the new episode coming out?
You're like, what?
I was like, who are you? Why are you reaching out now?
Yeah.
But it was fun because we would update everybody on the making of the movie and where we were at and what we just shot that past weekend. Because SCUM was all shot on weekends. We had our main actress was moving to LA, so she was about to leave. We had 1 week with her, so I took off of work for a week. A bunch of the actors did too, and we shot all of her stuff all in 1 week to finish her off, and then she was gone. And then she would, like, whenever she'd come down from LA on like breaks, she would be like, hey, do you need pickups or anything? It's like, yes we do, come over. And then and we would just call everybody up and we're like, hey, the scene real quick. It didn't work out the way I wanted to the first time, so like we would go put, because I was like the costume designer / manager too, so I had everyone's costume in my closet, and some of them were soaked with blood, some of them were like really, really stiff, so like I'd hand them to guys and be like, hey, I'm sorry the blood dried, but try to get back in there,
Try to squeeze back in there.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah, it's like podcasts. I'm not gonna say they're hard. I'm gonna say that like getting listeners is kind of hard, especially now because like there's so many of them that there is a sort of like quality control that you need to maintain. You need to have like the good mics, and you need to have, like the decent video, stuff like that. Or else, I mean, because like I've seen podcasts, and some of them are like really, really well done. It's like perfect lighting and it's HD.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, okay, all right, that's cool.
Yeah, they got those people have sponsors.
Yeah.
They're making money on their show. And there's a couple of, like I said, I listen to other podcasts as well. There's some that I enjoy, and yeah, they're probably not the greatest quality, but sometimes, if you could have the best quality ever, but if you're going to put people to sleep, they're not going to listen. It don't matter how well everything is. Excuse me, golly. But I think for me to like something, I have to feel like I'm a part of. Like I feel like, okay, these guys are pretty cool. They're down to earth. Like you were saying before, some shows they're like, well, I know this, and they name like everything about the movie, and it's like, I won't remember any of that. Like, I'm not going to remember the director because y'all were talking about, or this guy. I'm not going to remember it. But I will remember the scene that you make fun of that has someone doing something crazy, you know, and y'all all laugh about it. I'll remember that. I'm not going to remember details. But that's just humans, you know, I guess. But it's surprising because some people do like that. You know, they'll be like, oh, you messed up on this and this and this. Okay. I'm having fun. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to. If you're doing it for yourself, I think that's the best thing. Yeah. You do it for yourself, and you do it because, you know, it makes you feel good. You created something, just like an artist in painting or music. That's what this is for me, you know, that I get to express myself and have fun, you know, and I think that's what it's all about more than anything else. Would it be cool to make money off of it? Of course it would, but that's not the number one goal for me. For me, it's enjoying stuff and having someone, you know, like what you just said, or anybody like, hey, I enjoyed it. You know, you guys, y'all made me laugh, and I thought this was a good episode, you know, and not all of them were going to be great, but you know, at least I brightened someone's day, you know, and that makes up for everything else.
Well, it's like my brother, Don Gonzalez. He has the Staunch TV YouTube channel where he does like movies and all this stuff. And he had out of meeting some of the actors from Rock and Roll High School Forever, the Corey Feldman movie. He decided, like, you know, I'm talking to all these actors from the movie. I'm gonna go ahead and make a documentary out of it. So he started interviewing them, and, you know, through Skype and Zoom and stuff. And so he compiled all of those interviews and made a documentary out of it.
Oh wow!
Through that, he met Corey Feldman's assistant. So that guy and him, they started talking and this and that. So cut to like a year later, after screening a documentary called Forever, which is about the story behind Rock and Roll High School Forever. Corey Feldman is doing a documentary on his band, his band's first album. So his assistant was like, hey, there's this guy down in Texas. He's a huge fan. He's the one that shot the documentary, edited. He can come and edit this documentary. So Corey Feldman's like, sure, whatever, bring him up. So my brother spent the past 2.5 weeks in Hollywood editing a documentary for Corey Feldman. Got to meet Corey Feldman last Saturday, actually.
Awesome.
And now they're flying him back in a couple of weeks to go finish it up.
Heck
and
yeah,
it's just kind of weird because, you know, like, he had this YouTube channel that, you know, maybe 10 views, 11 views on some of the videos, but he just kept going, and he kept going and going and going. And it took about 2 years. And then now he's out in Hollywood hanging out with Corey Feldman, you know.
Yeah.
He just kept going, you know. And now he's got like 100, 200 views on his videos. Some of his views have thousands of views, you know, some of his videos. So yeah, it's like the same with podcasts. It's like, dude, you just got to keep going, and you got to, you know, be good, you know, be good and have fun. And yeah, and then, yeah, because I mean, it boils down to content is king, you know. And if you guys can do really good content in an entertaining way, yeah, people are gonna gravitate towards it. So
yeah, that's the goal, I guess. That's the high hopes of the show. It does take a while, and I see some people obsess over it, and it's like, don't obsess over it, you know. Just let it cook. Just leave it alone. Keep going, and don't look back.
yeah.
And don't pay attention to the negative stuff, because someone's always gonna have something bad to say. You got people that are like that, and I don't think we've made it that far yet to where we have that problem. We will, I guess, eventually one day. Someone saying, well, I object to that. But no, I just enjoy meeting all the different people. I really do. And in the independent circuit, they have a lot of cool original ideas that I'm hoping that my voice and what I do is kind of giving them, something, someone might be paying attention and say, oh, I hadn't seen that movie before, and let me check it out. And they might like it and become fans, and there you go. They got more people watching their film and waiting on the next one.
Yeah.
So that right there, I like knowing that I pointed someone in a direction saying, hey, this is pretty cool. And then they go and they see it and they're like, hey, this is pretty cool. Just like B movie TV, not a lot of people know what the heck that is. And people ask me still what it is. What is it? And I'm like, well, here it is. This is what it is. And it's only on Roku. Go check it out. See if you like it.
Yeah.
So,
well, that was going to lead me to my next question. It's kind of like, why do you do this? And how long are you planning on doing this? Just
I plan on doing it for as long as I can, man. I just want to keep going and have fun with it. That's the number one thing I get out of it. I get, to have fun and, just little opportunities show up, like, once everything starts opening up again, I know that B Movie TV is going to have a booth up there in Los Angeles. I think Scare Fest. I forget what they call it, but I know I'll probably end up going up there and hanging out with them. And, that's the one thing I like. I like to go and go see people and meet them in person. And, I went to Texas Frightmare one year, and that was pretty cool. Cult Classic was my favorite because that was more, I guess, it felt more like you were closer to people and you could actually, talk to them. As in Texas Frightmare, it's so huge.
Yeah.
And to talk to someone you want to talk to, you're going to stand in line forever, and at Cult Classic, you can just walk up, hey, how's it going? That's what I liked about it. Got to meet a couple of cool people, Leanna Quigley and Freaky
nice.
Stevens and Michael Berryman, and like I said, Billy Pond, and got to meet. Actually, the reason I went is because I signed up for a perk for Butcher's Bluff. I put in like 100 something, and I got tickets to go for that weekend and meet him and get a poster signed and by cast and everything. So that was cool. So yeah, I plan on going as long as I can, man. I guess until I lose my voice. I don't know. Because if I fail at one thing, I'm going to keep going and I'll try another. But I've met so many cool people that I'm not going to give up anytime soon.
Well, cool, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of Michael Berryman, we had SCUM at San Antonio Horrific Film Fest. I think it was like their third year or something, and that was the first festival that we got to go to and show our movie. And Michael Berryman was the special guest. People that don't know him, the Hills Have Eyes, box art and poster, that's him. He was also in Weird Science. He plays the motorcycle dude at the end, and whenever I introduced myself to him, because I wanted to go talk to him, and he's just kind of just standing there by himself. So I was like, oh, hey, Mr. Berryman, my name is Paul Gonzalez. I am the director of SCUM. And he looks at me and shakes my hand and says, sometimes they need direction. Like SCUM needs direction.
Yeah.
And I'm just cracking up. And then he just like looks at me, smiles, and walks away. I was like, okay, that's all I needed, man.
I did pretty much the same thing you did. He was sitting by himself, and I was like, I gotta talk to this guy, man. I really do. And I walked up to him, and I actually saw a film as an independent feature. It's called Midnight Devils, but It's called something else. Midnight. I have it down here. Well, anyway, he's in that, and I saw it, and I told him, "Hey, man, I really enjoyed Midnight Devils. I got to see it." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he started talking to me, and he's like, "Oh, is that your wife?" I said, "Yeah." And then he started joking around with me about do you sleep with one eye open? Those kind of jokes. He was just really fun to talk to, man. He was just really cool. And yeah, Michael Berryman, if anybody has a chance to meet that guy, do it, because you'll laugh. He's hilarious.
Yeah, he is definitely.
So, but I know Cult Classic's coming up. I hope they change. It might be postponed till the following year, but I know they're going to have a good lineup. Hopefully they have the same lineup they were going to have this year. But yeah, there's going to be some cool people there. I recommend people go to that, especially if you like horror movies and anything like that. Go to that. It's real fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. I think we're at the end. Is there anything you want to
add? Well, what's going on? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, is there anything you want to add?
No, I just like I said, man, I appreciate you wanting to talk to me about this stuff. It does feel like you're kind of alone sometimes if you're the only one that can, talk about it, and then people look at you weird. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But no, the one thing I can leave anybody with is, if you want to create something, don't wait, just do it. The greats have always said that,
Yeah.
And I believe in it. If I don't want to do a podcast, I don't know if I can do it. You know what? Just go for it. Find out if you can. If you want to do a YouTube channel, find out if you can. Just do it and put it out there, and go for it, man. 100%, and have fun with it. You never know. You might like it, and you might have something, on your hands. You might have something.
Yeah.
A lot of people might view it,
Yeah, definitely.
So,
people that want to follow you, what are your social media?
On my social medias, they can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, same username. They call me Mr. Poe. And then I'm also on the Slasher app. That's a horror themed app, community and everything. And they call me Mr. Poe as well. So they can follow me there. And of course, they can catch me on a podcast from Beneath, new episodes every Wednesday, and B-Movie TV, Sci-Fi Sideshow, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. So all times local, by the way.
Okay. Awesome.